Hi everyone, I'm Selena for Who is Jesus Today. And I just thought I would share a little of a story that I've experienced some years going back when I was in New York City, and I was doing a school project. And it was a course about religions, comparative religions. And I'm glad that I took the course. It was also given with a Christian worldview, by the way. So, I want to share a little bit of my experience because as part of this course, our professor did want us to go and actually spend time and visit some of these religious centers and engage with the attendees. And so, wearing my Vigilines now, so please bear with me. I have to wear them more than I really want to. Okay, I was really careful about where I was going to go, but I knew wherever I was going to go, I was going to get the impact of that environment and the spiritual warfare. So for me, I'm going to highlight on this particular video my experience at a Buddhist temple in Lower Manhattan. I think it was on Washington Street, downtown, those little small alley streets. So I went to this temple, and it was a project, and I was prepared. I felt in my spirit, yes, I was covered, of course, by the power of God, and I studied particularly Mahayana Buddhism in this particular course. And if you look on my channel, there's a book that I have that I am recommending that you read. If you have a heart, say, for missions, but even if you don't, it will strengthen your faith. God Spoke Tibetan. And my focus a lot was on, at the time, Tibet has now become an autonomous zone, but it's like an autonomous zone under China, right? Because they have pretty much taken over. But at the time of older Tibet, it was a nation that seemed to practice, say, a Buddhism 24/7, which is why, of course, China wanted to put a stop to all of that, say, religiosity. We have communist China, right? And so so that was interfered with. But if you read the book God Spoke Tibetan, there's 3 missionaries who were led to go to Tibet to start the Bible in the Tibetan language, because translations is a big thing. It's very important, and we need more and more. There are still some languages, I would say, out there that are yet to be really written. Yes, and so in living out John 3:16, we definitely need translations, because look, you read the Bible in English and Spanish and French, okay? But listen, it was in Hebrew and Greek, okay? So on this particular journey, this particular trip to the temple, my first time going to a Buddhist temple as a Christian believer. I didn't go there at all to engage and practice anything. I want to make that clear. I was an observer, and I wanted to do a report. At the same time, I know I was going into spiritual warfare on a personal level, and I wanted to prepare myself, and I also prayed and called on the Lord while I was there. I do not advise you to do this if you're not, unless you're called or led. I don't encourage people to just say, oh, I'm going to go down to the Buddhist temple or to this temple, or I'm going to go into the bar because there's people there who need Jesus. Yes, there is, but you have to be careful with that. You have to be led. You can maybe stand outside and wait for people to come out of the bar, because they have to come out eventually, but they may not be in the condition to hear a word that you're saying, right? You know, you probably have heard this before. People say, well, people in the bar need the Lord. Yes, they do. You have to use discretion and wisdom, but I say you can just wait until they come out, and maybe you can pass them, say, some literature or little small Bibles, and say, God bless you. When they sober up, you know, they can read it. But here I am in this temple for the first time, and I see these little Buddhas all across the wall, and there are attendees there that are chanting, and I'm very aware of what they were doing. And I began to feel this presence of darkness, and I had a little bit of a headache. I felt kind of, say, nauseating, but I needed to continue there and speak to this man who was there, and he happened to notice me. He wanted to strike a conversation. He identified himself as a Chinese person, and he also said he was once a Presbyterian Christian, and he had lost his faith and hope with, say, Christianity, and he was upset with a TV evangelist, and he just said, no. He said, yeah, I was a Christian. I was a part of the Presbyterian denomination. He was letting me know that. And then he said to me how he has, I believe, you know, his family history could be Buddhism. Maybe, most likely, yes. He was a Christian, and now he's gone to Buddhism, or back. And I was really discouraged to hear this, but he was willing to talk to me, and we talked for about 2 hours, for a while, and kind of going a little bit back and forth. And I wasn't there to try to defend any particular person who's an evangelist on TV, or I wasn't even saying that, well, he had his reasons for himself for being, say, disappointed. But my goal was to let him know that Jesus of the Bible is more than any experience he's had that he didn't like or was negative. It's more than who he is watching on Christian TV. But I wanted to bring him back to understand who is God in his word, God's love for him through Jesus and salvation, and that he has a soul that needs to be saved, and he will go to heaven or hell. And I won't go a lot into this, but for those of you who are, say, familiar, or if you've passed through this channel and you are, say, Buddhist, you know, in some sense, you may be able to compare in the Buddhist mind that when they arrive to that place of ultimate bliss, it's called nirvana. And so that's not a place that you can really attain to very easily according to Buddhism. You know, on this channel, I believe that it is appointed to man once to die, and after that, the judgment. So I am not into reincarnation. You have to say things, because I realize that it's easy for things you say to be really distorted. And I'm going to be really honest about that. I'm going to be very blunt about that. That I am careful that my words are not distorted and misused. So I am not one that is looking forward to nirvana. Okay, I'm looking forward to see Jesus in heaven. Right. But I'm just making this comparison that he was discussing with me, say, nirvana, and his optimism for someday arriving to that place, and how that happens. I forgot a lot of things that I have studied about Buddhism, but it's times that we need to know, because we have to engage with those who believe a certain way. And so you go through this cycle of life of say, continual stages of reincarnation, until you get better and better into that upper and higher stage. And that's when you can then exit out into bliss, which is called nirvana. I don't believe that. I want to say today in love to my friends out there, any of you who are Buddhists, whether you are born into the religion because of your ethnic background, your country, or you are in the United States and you are interested in the religion of Buddhism, I want to say there is no bliss. You don't go out just into nothingness and bliss. There's a heaven and a hell, and it's appointed to man once to die, after that the judgment. To wrap up this story, I want to say that I was talking to this man, and I felt that God had assigned me there to do that day. I had to ignore the chanting that was in the background. I wasn't feeling so great there, but I know I was covered in the blood of Jesus. And that man today needed to be reminded again that it is only salvation through Jesus. And that ended well. That meeting finally ended. I was glad to leave. I was able to do a paper and give a report on my experience. It turned out to be more than I actually expected there. And I got to tell someone again about he needs to come to know God and to turn his heart and his life back. And he said to me, after listening to you, he has lost, he didn't want to deal with any, say, Christian television, but he was open to the things that I had said. And we departed. And I just left the rest to God, to the Holy Spirit. While I was there, the Lord put this verse in my heart, and I began to tear. Isaiah 45. Okay. Start at verse, let's see, this is verse, I think it's verse 4. But anyway, I'm just going to start to read. Isaiah 45 up to, say, the 5th verse. But I'm just going to read a few. I will go before you and make the crooked places straight. I will break in pieces the gates of bronze and cut the bars of iron. I will give you the treasures of darkness and the hidden riches of secret places, that you may know that I, the Lord, who call you by your name, am the God of Israel. And that spoke to me, and I began to weep. And the Lord put one of my eyes to look at the little Buddhas all over on the wall, the shelf. And the Lord was saying to me, do you want these treasures of darkness? I can be assured that had to be God, because, honestly, I was feeling really uncomfortable there too. And I began to weep, and then the Lord showed me, there's treasures in darkness. Do you want these treasures? I said yes. You can like and subscribe. Until next time, Shalom.